Good morning. I've got my fan on because Davis is sleeping over there. Sorry. Anyways, today is Joseph Smith History 1 verses 1 through 4. Now, in these, he's just beginning. It's just 4 verses. And most times when we break down these first 26 verses, we talk about the first vision, about Heavenly Father and Jesus coming and what the truths are that were restored in that first vision. Well, in these first verses, these first 4 verses, he just gives the reason as to why he's writing his history, which we kind of discussed yesterday. And then he also just gives the names of his father's family. So, I have this book here, Pearl of Great Price Commentary by Milton R. Hunter. And there's not... These books on the commentary of the Pearl of Great Price basically just repeat back to you the Pearl of Great Price. They just summarize a little bit here and there. So it's not truly helpful. But what was helpful was he gives the compilation history, I suppose. So he says, in the spring of 1838, the prophet Joseph Smith began to write his history, which has come to be known as the History of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, period 1, or History of Joseph Smith the Prophet by himself. The first of this narrative to appear came from the press on March 15, 1842, at Nauvoo, Illinois. It was published in the Times and Seasons, beginning in Volume 3, Number 10, page 726. So he has specific places where this first appeared. He says, by the latter date, the events up to August 1834 had been printed. The publication of the history of the prophet Joseph Smith was continued in the Deseret News in 1851, from the point where the Times and Seasons had left off. And then the history was reproduced in the Morning Star, a Latter-day Saint periodical begun in England in 1840. And it says, Elder B.H. Roberts took the history of the prophet Joseph, the prophet, from the Times and Seasons, the Deseret News, and the Millennial Star, and also other journal accounts of the leaders of the church, especially those of the prophet Joseph Smith, and from these primary sources he published in 6 volumes the History of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, period 1. These 6 volumes came from the press during the period of 1802 to 1812. This history has oftentimes been referred to as the documentary history of the church. It covers the period of church history from the birth of the prophet Joseph Smith up to the time of his martyrdom. In 1851, Franklin D. Richards took extracts from the Times and Seasons accounts of the history of the prophet Joseph Smith and published the material in the Pearl of Great Price. The portion of the prophet's history reproduced by Elder Richards began prior to the first vision and carried the story up to the restoration of the Aaronic priesthood. The material presented in this chapter was first published in the Times and Seasons, Volume 3, Number 10, March 15th, and Number 11, April 1st, 1842, appearing in that periodical on certain pages. We shall now go directly to the account reproduced from the Pearl of Great Price and let the prophet Joseph Smith tell his own story. So I thought that was kind of interesting, where they had compiled it from and who had put it together and when. So that's just some information for you. It's all I got. And then verses 1 and 2 is the purpose of his history. You know, those who are seeking the truth, he's willing to give it to them so far as he has the facts. And then in verse 3 and 4, it just states his place and time of birth and the members of his family. So that's really all there is for verses 1 through 4. But one small weird little question I had was, his brother Don Carlos, where did they get that name? Why did they choose that name? I find it odd and also fascinating. Like, he's got Alvin and Joseph and Hiram and Samuel and Harrison and William and his sisters Catherine and Lucy and Sophorona, and then they have Don Carlos. I find it weird. Alright, so that's all I got for today. I will talk to you later.